Hi, it's Ray from IELTS Focus. Now in this presentation I want to take a look at IELTS Writing Task 1 Academic, in particular maps. Now the thing about IELTS Writing Task 1 is that you often get like a line graph or a bar chart or maybe a pie chart, whatever, but in some cases you may get a map or two maps. And of course if you haven't prepared and you get to the exam and you're given a map, then you may panic and you could actually lose a lot of points, because writing task 1 is actually very important to get it right. Even though writing task 2 gives you double the amount of points, it's very important to do a good writing task 1. So in this presentation we're going to look at maps. We're going to look at two maps, past and present, and how to write the introduction, the overview, the main body paragraphs, and specific language that you need to write about maps. And there's also a model answer. So if it's useful, then leave a comment below or click like, share the video, and take a look at the website, which is ieltsfocus.com. So thanks a lot. Okay, so let's take a look at the map tasks. Now you need to be prepared in case you get a map. Usually you'll get a line graph or a bar chart or a pie chart, or sometimes you'll get a double task, like a table and a pie chart, for example. But you need to be prepared because maps do sometimes show up in writing task 1 in the academic version. Now there are different types of maps. The most common are usually past and present maps, and that's what this lesson is going to be about. We're going to look at two different maps, so past and present. Sometimes both maps might be in the past, so in that case you'll use the past tense. And of course there are other maps that show proposals for the future. So you might have a map with the present, what's happening now, and proposals for, say, a redevelopment scheme in the future. Now that's a bit different. You'll need to use the future tense there. But I just want to look at past and present maps in this lesson. And of course there's also floor plans. I've seen floor plans which are slightly different to maps. I mean, it's a similar kind of language, but there are a few differences here and there. Now, in most cases, there are two maps that show changes. So you will need to use specific language and vocabulary to describe change, and you'll also need prepositions of location. Now, in this task here, the grammar needed would be the past tense, so was, were, the present perfect or present perfect passive to describe changes, and we'll need prepositions and the language of location. So this is what we're going to look at in this lesson. Now before you write anything, you need to think of some kind of structure. So first of all, you get the task and you need to kind of analyze the task. You need to look at what the changes are in those maps, the main features of the maps, and then you need to think about how you're going to write the report. Now in writing task 1, you just need a very simple, straightforward introduction where you paraphrase the task question, and then you need an overview. Now the overview is very brief and there's no details in it. It's just the general features or the key features of the maps, and then you have two main body paragraphs, but there's no conclusion. Now the body paragraphs is where you can go into detail and you can describe the main differences, but you need to kind of group the information. I mean, this is especially so with line graphs and pie charts. You need to group the information accordingly. So really it's a pretty straightforward structure. Now we need to use important vocabulary for describing maps. You need to use this kind of vocabulary and language for a higher band score in this section of the writing. So in this case with maps, we're going to be looking at vocabulary to describe changes. So for expanding, for example, enlarged, expanded, made bigger, developed. So the housing was developed, or the housing estate was expanded. Removing, so demolished, knocked down, pulled down. And for trees and forests, you'd say cut down. I have seen tasks before where students have written about like the forest has been demolished, and that just doesn't go well. Forests are cut down, buildings are demolished, or buildings are knocked down. And additions like constructed and built and added, introduced. And again, forests and trees, they're planted. And for new facilities, for example, a swimming pool facility, leisure facility, those are usually opened up. So, for example, a new leisure facility was opened up. And changes, when something is changed, we can say it's converted, or it's been redeveloped, or it's been replaced, or modernized, or renovated. So, for instance, the shopping centre was redeveloped, or the parking area was made into a bigger area, or is replaced. The shopping centre was modernized, for example. Now, this vocabulary can be added to passive sentences to describe changes, which we're going to look at now. So the grammar used to describe changes should be in the passive. Now, these sentences here, they're not connected to today's task, these maps, but these are just examples, general examples. So, for example, the offices were demolished and the surrounding area was redeveloped with a new leisure centre opening up. So there we've got the passive. Were demolished, was redeveloped. The shopping centre was extended. The parking area was enlarged. The industrial area was modernised. New factories have been built in the past 10 years. The local government had the sports facilities renovated, and a small park was made into a children's playground. And again, trees, they were cut down, and a new office block was erected. A railway was constructed, and there was an introduction of a new train station. So you can see now I've used specific vocabulary like demolished, redeveloped, extended, modernised, cut down, constructed, and I've used that in passive sentences to describe change. Now, another things we need to use is vocabulary for showing location. Now, when we describe the location of something on a map, you need to use phrases such as to the north of, or to the east of, or to the west, or in the west, to the south of, etc. So, for example, the trees to the north of the river were cut down and a new office block was built. A railway was constructed to the east of the housing estate with a new train station. The forest to the west of the town was cut down and redeveloped. The industrial area to the southwest of the station was expanded, and the river runs through the town from north to south. A railway runs through the city from the east to the west. So we need to really pinpoint on the map the actual location of what's actually happening. So to the north of, to the east of, to the west of, etc., etc. And you can see that this is being mixed in with, again, passive sentences such as were cut down, was constructed, was cut down, was expanded, etc. Now we also need prepositions for showing location. This is very important. Prepositions are essential when describing a location on a map. For example, next to or near, from to, across from, nearby, along the river, and so on. Let's look at some example sentences. Houses were constructed next to the primary school. So were constructed as passive, and we've got next to as a preposition. The forest near the river was cut down. A new railway running from north to south was built. The footpath by the river was expanded. Parking facilities were added in the city centre, and the school across from the park was extended, and new sports facilities were built. So again, we can see the passive voice there, and we've got these prepositions. And another thing is showing vocabulary or language for changes over time. Now, for maps that compare the past and the present especially, the present perfect or the present perfect passive is often used, and time phrases need to be used, like over the 20-year period, in the last 10 years, or since 1997, that kind of thing. So of course the present perfect and the present perfect passive, they show that something started in the past and it affects the present moment. So for instance, has witnessed big changes. So the area has witnessed big changes over the past 10 years, for example. Or it has become more industrialized since 1997. New office blocks were built. Sorry, a new office block has been built. The area has been modernized. The area has been developed. And has been built, has been modernized, has been developed, has been demolished. This is the present perfect passive. So these example sentences, we can use these, for instance, in an overview. When we're writing the overview of a MAPS task, we can use something like, over the 20-year period, the area has witnessed big changes, especially to the farmland areas. So these orange phrases, these are time phrases from 1990 to 2010, in the period from 1990 onwards, over the years since 97. And we've got, again, the present perfect, and we've got the passive there. Was constructed, were renovated, was extensively modernized, and so on. So this is the kind of language and vocabulary you need to be using in a MAPS task to get a good band score. So let's take a look at the task now. So the two maps below show the changes in the town of Denham from 1986 to the present day. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features, and make comparisons where relevant. So this thing about summarizing the information, this really points to what the overview should be like. You're just summarizing the information and then selecting and reporting the main features. That's a key thing, because you don't have to write about every single thing. And it goes, the same goes for writing task 1, line graphs and bar charts and pie charts. Again, you don't have to write about everything. You're just selecting and you're reporting the main features. And of course, you can make comparisons where relevant. So take a look at these two maps and you can see the main changes that have taken place over the years. Now, first thing we have to do is the introduction. So for the introduction, you just basically paraphrase the task question. And this was the task question below. So the two maps show the changes in the town of Denham from 1986 to the present day. And that just changes into, the maps illustrate the main changes which have taken place in the town of Denham from 1986 to the present moment. Now, I haven't changed a lot here. You don't have to paraphrase every single word. A map is a map. You can't change that. And I can't change the town name, the town of Denham. I can't change that name. I've altered the sentence structure a little bit. I've added a relative clause, which have changes which have taken place. And the word show, I've changed to illustrate. And the present day, the present moment. So that's pretty minimal paraphrasing, but that's fine. I don't need to go too overboard on it. But one thing is, don't copy the task question word for word. You must attempt paraphrasing. But keep it short and keep it concise, and don't go into any detail. Just keep it simple. If you overthink it, then you'll lose time. So as I say, you don't have to change every single word, but it must be paraphrased a little bit. Now, straight after the introduction is the overview. Now, you must write an overview in writing task 1 academic, or you'll lose a band score in task response. And it's the same for graphs and charts and diagrams and tables, all of that stuff in writing task 1. Now, the overview must not contain details or numbers. It's really just a summary of the main features, the key features. You can use comparisons language there, but you've got to keep it, concise. About 2 or 3 sentences will be enough. And main details, they go in body paragraphs. So here's my overview to those two maps. So overall, the town has most notably shown an increase in housing development, which indicates a higher population and a move away from agriculture and farming. The overview should start with the word overall, because this clearly shows the examiner that it's an overview. The examiner can see straight away there's the overview. And by the way, never write a conclusion in writing task 1 academic. It's not necessary. All you need is an introduction, an overview, and 2 main body paragraphs. So here's the task again, or the 2 maps again, so you can familiarize yourself with those. Just take a moment to look at the main changes that have taken place there. So the body paragraphs. First body paragraph is one change that stands out is that there has been a significant redevelopment over the whole period. To the east of the River Stoke, housing now dominates the area of what was once farmland. In 1986 there were shops and just a handful of residential properties. Now there are neither shops nor farmland left, although the post office is still there. The bridge over the River Stoke still stands as it did in 1986. So here I've started the paragraph with one change that stands out, because I'm writing about the key change, which is the significant redevelopment. And significant redevelopment, that's a collocation. And then I've got the phrase to the east of, so again that's the language of location. And then I refer to 1986, so in 1986 there were shops. And I'm making a comparison of now, so now there are neither shops nor farmland left. I make a mention of the post office and of course the bridge, which is still there. So it's pretty, short and concise. Now next body paragraph. So another noticeable change is that more roads have been built around the housing complex. Additionally, the gardens that were in front of the large house in 1986 have been removed and the house has been expanded and converted into a retirement home. The primary school is still there and has been extended in the decades since. So I start this paragraph with another noticeable change. So now I'm picking out another key change, key feature. And you can see I've used the present perfect passive quite a lot here. So have been built, have been removed, has been expanded, has been extended. And I'm making a comparison with the present day in 1986. So that's really all there is to it for the body paragraphs. So you can see the task again, the 2 maps again, just to familiarize yourself with that. So let's take a look at the model answer. As you can see, very simple, straightforward introduction, a nice concise overview, and then there's the 2 main body paragraphs covering the details, and that's 176 words. So in terms of word count, obviously 150 words is minimum, but you'll find you'll probably need a little bit more than that to really produce a good task. So I'd say around about 170 to 190 words for writing task 1. If you're going over 200 words, it's getting a little bit too much and you're going to take too long writing that. You've only got 20 minutes to do this, so it's got to be kind of like simple and concise and to the point. Okay, so thanks for watching, and take a look at the blog, IELTSfocus.com. There's a lot of stuff on there. And we're also on Instagram. It's IELTS Focus, instagram.com IELTS Focus. And great, thanks a lot. Thanks for watching.